Hi guys, Brody and Deidre.
Hi. So we just wanted to come on today and kind of share a little bit about, we think of different topics together, things that God's been teaching us or things that we've learned. So the topic came to me of doing things in our own strength. And I can struggle with that a lot. I love being organized. I love tasks. I love those kind of things. So it's just kind of like the pitfall for me to just plow through and do it in my own strength. And
which can be good.
But I can get grumpy and stressed out because I'm just carrying it all on my own. So it is good to be organized in those things, but how do you do it just not heavy? You want to still enjoy what you're doing, and you want to do it
childlike
with God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brody seems to be much better at that than me. But
there's a scripture for it.
I wanted you to talk, love, a little bit about the idea. I thought of AA and some of the steps in AA. And I was thinking about doing things in our own strength. And the third step actually says we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Mm-hmm. So why do you think it's so important that is actually a part of recovery and life in general, turning our wills over to God?
Yeah, well, for myself, I tried to do everything in my own strength, and I have a very strong will. Mm-hmm. But when you're trying to overcome something like cocaine addiction, doing it in your own self-will when you're in full bondage is very hard. And maybe not even cocaine. Maybe you could be addicted to whatever out there in the world. Maybe trying to not use your phone for a day. That can be hard, can it? I actually pulled out my AA book because I thought there was some good key things, and Deidre actually has a recovery Bible that is here.
Here, I'll show them. It's so good, guys. The Life Recovery Bible, it's the NLT, so the New Living Translation. You can probably find it on Amazon. It has the steps in it. It also has little devotionals to do with recovery. And the thing is even though I wouldn't necessarily be classified as somebody in like recovery.
She's been in recovery since she met me.
Through a substance. I really believe that these steps are just principles for life, because you know what? We are recovering from just
fear.
So many things.
Greed.
Selfishness.
And
sin. Like if you think about sin as well.
Whatever we're recovering, we could make a big list.
Yeah.
We can make a big list of recovery.
You know what you struggle with.
So all of us is in recovery, is what Deidre is saying. So for myself, I tried to overcome addiction for years. And I didn't have the best success. Actually, I had short bouts of success. And what they call it actually is white knuckling it, where nothing was changing in my life. My character wasn't changing. And I was just holding on and just trying to just drop the substance. But it wasn't so much the substance. It was the spiritual malady underneath my substance, my heart. Yeah. My heart was filled with fear, anxiety, bitterness, resentment, and so many things. Yeah. But I actually circled a bunch of things here years ago in my Alcoholics Anonymous book. Maybe some of you have heard of that program. Maybe some of you have tried it. So I circled some things in here, and I just want to read this to you. So our actor, which is myself, is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like a retired businessman who lolls in Florida sunshine, don't we wish we were there right now, in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. Wow, doesn't that sound like us right now? Wow. Complaining of the sad state of the world. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 12th century. Mm. The politician reformers who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. Mm. Now, if only everybody could behave, right? If we could put them in their little spots.
Looking outside ourselves.
Yeah. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him. And the alcoholic who has lost it all and is locked up. Mm. Our resentments or our self-pity. Now, these are the things I circled about myself years ago. Maybe you will hear some of these things in yourself.
I can see all the circles.
There's a lot of circles. And I still go back to this because even though it's been years, we can still fall back, can't we, into this old way of thinking of selfishness.
Or even the idea, love, of not necessarily you're falling back into a substance, but like mindset or heart.
Yeah, mindset or heart. Yeah, it's not so much the substance. You can fall back into old weight patterns of thinking.
Your character.
So selfishness, self-centeredness, I circled those. That we think is the root of our troubles, circled. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. That was all of me, Deidre. Fear, self-delusion. I was always self-seeking and filled with self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in this position to be hurt. So I realized a lot of the times I was hurt because I placed myself in the position to be hurt, trying to trust in my own self and my own wisdom, which there was not much. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot. Though he usually doesn't think so. I didn't think so. Actually, I thought I was perfect. I didn't think I had a problem at all. Above everything, we alcoholics must rid of selfishness. We must rid ourselves. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Those are just some of the things that I circled. One of the biggest ones, I would say, was selfishness and self-centeredness. And maybe some of you have heard the word ego. Well, the definition for ego that I heard a long time ago is edging God out.
I thought that was so good. I never heard that before.
Yeah. Don't need you, God. I got this.
Which then is pride.
Yes.
In our hearts, that we're not humble enough to ask for help from God, or to even ask for help from people when we need it, or even to see that we need help, because like Brody was saying, he thought that he was perfect. So I don't need help.
I don't need help. I got this on my own. I can do this.
But
what do I need a fellowship, a group for?
Your life was an example of that.
And believe me, guys, I tried everything. Tried to fill myself with work, tried to fill myself with things of success, tried to fill myself with whatever could get my mind, and still.
So what was different then when you decided to take that step and put your wills over to God?
Yeah, it was complete defeat for me. I think everybody is in a different place when they get to that point of surrender. But for me, it's just basically like I had to put my hands up, and it's just like a surrender. I had to say, you know what, God, I'm gonna trust you, and I'm gonna give you the keys. I'm gonna give you the bus, and you're gonna drive it.
So then what does that look like for you every day? Yeah,
so every day is a daily surrender. And there's some scriptures about this in the Bible. But every day I wake up, I actually start, some of you have seen my emails, but it's with a place of gratitude. And then I surrender my will over to God. And then I trust him with my day. So now I start my day in a place of rest, because now I'm always seeking his guidance and seeking his wisdom instead of my own.
Yeah. And rest, I think sometimes it's tricky because rest doesn't mean lazy. It doesn't mean you're not going to get things done. But I know for myself, there's a very different place from striving in my own strength and feeling heavy burden and feeling so anxious and stressed out because the weight of everything feels like it's just on my shoulders. Opposed to when I actually catch myself doing that and I take just the smallest moments in the day. What I've been doing that's been helpful is before I do any work in my little office is to pause and to just know that God is there with me, and to say, you know what, God, help me in all the work I have to do today. Guide me, give me creative ideas, and to not just trust that it has to all come from me, but he's in it with me because he loves me. So there's a verse that I wanted to share. It's actually the verse that I've chosen for this year. And it's funny because God just needs to remind us over and over again. I think I said it a couple of weeks to you. I was like, oh yeah, that's my verse. I need to trust in God and rest in him, because it's just not my natural all the time. I go into overdrive. I got to get it done. I got to do this. I have to.
And surrender it's practice. It's like it's like you let go, but then you start taking the bus back.
Yeah.
You start taking the keys back. So you can be easy on yourself, because God does want us all, but He's patient. Because I know I surrendered through the years multiple things, and it wasn't just this one huge surrender. It was, I gave my life to God, but I had to surrender other things. But He was patient and loving as I let go. Because it wasn't just that addiction. I had many other things I had to deal with, and I still do.
Yeah. And as we go on, He highlights things. Yeah. And He is the one doing the work in us. That's a scripture that I need to focus on more. That He started the work in us, and He is going to finish it. That my part is to just come to Him. Like child-hearted, like you said.
Yeah, it says right here in Matthew 18:13, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven.
So trusting and having a humble heart. And in order to trust, I think you also need to come to know God's love deep in your heart and to know that He is good. How can you trust someone that you don't believe is good? So ask God for revelation with that if you're struggling with that. Sometimes I've struggled with that before.
But I can tell you, He is good. He is loving. He does want an awesome relationship with you. I've experienced it.
So here's the scripture that I wanted to share with you guys. So it's in Matthew 11, and it's verse 28. It says, come to me, and this is Jesus speaking, all of you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and my burden I give you is light. So just reading that, like I've read it a bunch of times, but it just brings comfort to my soul. First of all, you're invited to come to Him. He's saying, come to me. If you feel heavy, weary from your own striving, from like your own trying to muscle it up in your own strength, come to Him. And then He says, which is so beautiful, let me teach you. He wants to be our teacher. Every day, every moment, He wants to teach us. So trust Him in that. He says He's humble and gentle at heart. So I don't know if maybe some of you, the striving has come from a place of maybe you had people growing up that were really like, I don't know, like militant in a sense of you need to do this, then you need to, and there's a perfectionism, and that created a striving in you. But right here it says that Jesus is humble and gentle at heart. So I would encourage you in your day to look for God's grace and to continue to ask Him for grace for yourself when you're working through things. So basically we just wanted to bring up the idea, and you can ponder more about what does it look like in your life to let go and trust God and Him be your source.
Yeah. Feel free to leave some comments of what working for you and what surrender looks like for you, because we love to reply and we love to pray for you all, for the ministry. Deidre and I right now are planning to go back to Africa in the near future as we surrender and trust God.
Remind you guys that if you feel led, we are still looking for monthly partners. And how many partners are you looking for?
Yeah, we're believing for right now 20 partners at $100 monthly. So what we'll do is we'll just leave the link below, and if you feel led to partner with us on this awesome mission of sharing God's love locally and around the world, you can feel free to do that below.
Thanks so much for your prayers and your support and joining us in our journey.
See you later.
Bye.